Should school boards at least attempt to be meritocratic in their decision-making processes? I'm Marco Perry. Welcome to the Perry Platform. CP24 reports that the Toronto District School Board voted to remove all testing, examinations, auditions, and grade entry requirements for dozens of their specialized schools and programs. Students who seek entry to the board's several dozen high school specialized arts, athletics, science, math, and other programs will now be based on quote-unquote interest, with a random draw conducted whenever demand outstrips or outpaces the amount of available space. The school board said that the model is meant to move away from one that only accepted those who demonstrated strength and/or ability, towards a model that would provide all students who express an interest with an equal chance to enroll in one of the programs. Now, here let's take a pause. I can certainly sympathize with that idea. Honestly, people are born with natural talents for a lot of things, and even beyond that, their environment. These children are not controlling that. To be able to afford a tutor, or to be enrolled in athletics programming, all of these contribute to your abilities. And those abilities are, for the most part, what determines success in these specialized programs. It's essentially a lottery as to which child will inherit the innate talent for things like science and mathematics, and those children can even take those skills further if the environment is suitable. For example, they do have things like tutoring and a supportive household who encourages them to study. Now, you could also have people who have no aptitude for science, math, or athletics, and they do have an environment that is conducive to success. They can certainly get better, but when compared to somebody who has a good environment and they've inherited the traits that are aligned with the goal at hand, it's a different ballpark. I think sports puts this into perspective quite well. As a child, I liked basketball. I still do to this day. Being in the NBA would be quite amazing, right? So I played a lot with my friends. Didn't enroll in programs, but let's say that I did. I trained a lot, right? And I got relatively good. Maybe in my neighborhood, I was something like in the top 10%. But the problem is, genetically, I was not given the athletic traits that would provide the basis for success within elite competition, like height, not being able to jump and touch the rim, right? These are things that are heritable. Now, I could go knock on the NBA's door and demand that instead of looking at talent as per defined through athletic ability and observable occurrences of that, they do something like the Toronto District School Board here, where we want them to enact a fair random lottery, where I have as much of a chance to make it as Michael Jordan. And let's say I am selected to participate in the NBA. I'm now on the Toronto Raptors. How's that going to go for me? Was I suited to be in that position? Or am I going to be dominated now by actual NBA caliber players? On one hand, you can interpret the process as being quote-unquote fair, because I had an equal shot, like everyone else, including Michael Jordan. But on the other hand, is it really fair? Have I been set up to succeed, or have I been set up to fail? Specialized programs and school curriculums and even clubs like these sports ones exist because they're setting apart individuals who have an aptitude for the item at hand. Having a specialized science program doesn't really make any sense if the caliber of the education is the exact same as you would find in the regular public schooling system. The same goes for sports, the same goes for music, the same goes for anything of interest here. Now, what standardized testing does for us is it gives us a gauge as to the person's capabilities. And of course, it's not perfect. Nothing is in this domain. As we just talked about, having a conducive environment to enable your traits to really thrive is beneficial. But not everyone has that. And that may very well favor those who are better off. But it doesn't always play out like that. In fact, standardized testing has been one of the greatest instruments of generating social mobility ever. Why? Because poor kids who are not connected to anyone, who don't know, or who aren't friends with the admissions chancellor, All they have, though, is an innate talent for whatever's at hand. Athletics, whether it's books, mathematics, or science, they're good at it. And just because they're lacking the ability to get tutoring, they might be so good that they still impress. What the school board is doing here is not understanding where the equal should be placed. Equality of opportunity is what we need. Everyone should have the equal opportunity to compete to the best of their ability. And if we see areas where that is suffering, like, for example, not having after-school help for the kids who do need it and can't afford a tutor, well, get that going so you can get the best out of them. And enable people to fairly stack up against each other. Don't play with the outcome. Allow the individuals to get that for themselves, to earn it. Keep in mind too, these are specialized programs we're talking about, not regular high school education streams. Very much like the NBA example I gave you, let's say that I want to enroll in a specialized engineering program, right? But I have zero engineering talent. But based on this new criteria of interest, I meet that. I am interested in engineering. I think it's cool, right? So I apply. And typically what's going to happen is, of course, demand is going to outstrip the availability of the program. So the draw will happen and I'll win. Let's imagine that. Now I'm in this specialized program that's very demanding, very challenging, and because the school board had no idea where my skills were at, it's a clear mismatch and I get slaughtered there. Fail everything. And I would have actually been better off just sticking to the regular high school curriculum and starting with the basics in that regard. Now, the school board then goes on to say that it is their responsibility to take action to improve access for all students where we identify systemic barriers. And there, of course, I agree. But what systemic barriers are they talking about? They then say that this new policy will ensure a greater number of students have access to these high-quality programs and schools while reducing barriers that have long prevented many students from even applying. Well, once again, what are these barriers they're talking about? And if they could identify them, I'm sure we could come up with better ways to tackle that. Is it access to the educational materials needed to prepare yourself for those tests and whatnot? Is it access to after-school recreation drills and training to get you prepped for the athletics programs? Whatever it is, it seems like they've drawn a non sequitur here. It's highly contentious if removing testing and things of this standardized nature will do good for the people they purport to want to help. As we've talked about, standardized testing has been a massive social mobility helper, allowing even people who are dirt poor to climb up the hierarchy through their own wit. And of course, not everyone has that wit, but it was an available ladder. Now that's gone. So the smart, underprivileged kid now has to do what exactly? Hope that their ping pong ball gets drawn from the lottery, or they're screwed. It's clear to anyone who's looking at this proposal objectively that this is going to hurt those people, the underprivileged, more than they're going to help. They purport to be doing this because the rich have unfair advantages, which is true. But this doesn't solve that. What are the rich going to do if their prized baby doesn't get in to a Toronto District School Board program of their choice? They're going to send them to an elite private school instead. They're going to use their money to buy their way in. They're going to use their influence to get a leg up. The standardized testing was the crutch that the underprivileged were relying on to have a leg up. If they were skilled enough, it wouldn't actually matter if the rich kid had more money. Their test score would be so much better that they would have to be admitted. Otherwise, the admissions teams would have national scandals on their hands. So let me get this straight. Now we're going to take away all of that and we're going to obscure the entire process by basing things on quote-unquote interest and doing a random ping pong ball draw if there are more people who want to get in than spots available, which is always the case for highly desirable specialized programming. And then layer on the fact that the school board seems to have skirted over, which is that the specialized programming is more demanding than regular programming, and the standardized testing was a way to determine if the student was a good match for that. What are they going to do when this random ping pong draw results in people who aren't so quite well equipped for these specialized programs? Are they going to let them flunk out, fail, and set them back? Are they going to lower the program standards to accommodate for the randomness of the application process now? This is so ill-conceived that it's hard to believe a school board enacted it. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not to say that the education system previously was perfect or that there were no problems with it, but I'm simply advancing the case that it was functional. And that remains to be seen with this new change. It remains to be seen if this new change will actually conduct the benefits that they seem to think it will. My worst fear is that in the name of supposed equity, the truly underprivileged in our society get buried deeper because these programs have not been thought of logically. Instead, they're being guided around by virtue signaling. Now, on that note, it does bring us to the end of our conversation for today. If you enjoyed the material, be sure to leave a review and share. They'll help us grow. And you can find me online at perryplatform.org and on social media at perryplatform. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.